Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In this video, we are going to discuss single phase full bridge inverter with PWM operation. There are two ways in which we can control the PWM inverter. The one is the unipolar switching technique and the other one is the bipolar switching technique. In this slide, we will discuss bipolar switching technique. Full bridge circuit is shown in front of you. It consists of 4 switches G1, G2, G3 and G4 which are turned on and off to get sinusoidal varying area at the output voltage waveform. So we generate pulses by comparing the sine waveform with the carrier waveform. So that is shown over here, and you can see the pulses. The first set of pulse that is applied to the switch 1 and switch 2, it means these switches are turned on with this gate pulse, switch T1 and T2. G1 and G2 are representing the gates of these switches. Okay, how we generate this pulse? Whenever our reference is higher than the carrier, then the comparator gives the logic high output, and that is applied at the gate of the switch T1 and T2. So these two switches are turned on, and in this case the load voltage will be equal to plus minus VD, because we are applying VD voltage from the source. So whenever we are going to apply the gate pulse to the switch G1 and G2, the load voltage will be plus VD. So that is shown over here in this highlighted part. Your output voltage will be equal to plus VD. The second set of gate pulses or gate signal is the inverted version of the first set. So if I apply the NOT operation over that one, so I will get the second pulse of train, and this set of pulses is applied to the switches G3 and G4. So these are the switches in the diagram G3 and G4. It means you are operating the switches in cross. In first set, your G1 and G2 are turned on, and with respect to switch number, it is T1 and T2. So when they are turned on, your load voltage is VAB, because this is point A, this is point B. So VAB is equal to plus VD. Then we turn off these switches T1 and T2 and we turn on T3 and T4. So when these two switches are turned on, our VAB load voltage will be equal to minus VD. So switch T1 and T4, this arm of the switches, in this the switches are operating in the complementary mode. It means G1 and G4 cannot be turned on together. One of the switch will be on at any instant of time. So once G1 is turned on, along with that G2 will be turned on, and when G4 will be turned on, along with that G3 will be turned on. So either we consider the first arm or the second arm. In both of the arms of the switches are operating in the complementary mode. Okay, so our output voltage, when we will be turning on G3 and G4, that will cause minus VD across the load. So in this portion, minus VD will appear across the load. So this is our output voltage waveform, and if you look at this waveform, you will observe that output voltage area is going to vary sinusoidally. So the area variation at the output is according to the frequency of your reference signal. This was our reference signal, and whatever is the frequency of the reference signal, at the same frequency the output area will change. So output fundamental component will be equal in frequency as like of your reference signal. Okay, and how we can change the output voltage? Output voltage can be changed by changing the modulation index, that is changed by changing the magnitude of the reference waveform. So modulation index, that is M or MA, that is defined as the ratio of the reference waveform with the carrier or the modulating waveform with the carrier. So by controlling the modulation index, we can control the output voltage because the width of the pulses will change accordingly and the output RMS voltage will get changed. How to change the frequency? To change the frequency, we will have to control the frequency of the reference. So frequency of reference controls output frequency, and the modulation index M controls the output voltage. We can have overmodulation, as we have discussed in the previous videos, to get higher voltages from the sine PWM inverter, but the overmodulation will cause the merging of the pulses and the spectrum will get changed. If we sketch the spectrum of this particular waveform, in this the harmonics will appear around the multiple of your frequency modulation index. Frequency modulation index, and that is MF, that is defined as the ratio of the carrier frequency with the reference frequency. Carrier frequency is of this waveform, the carrier waveform, that is the triangular waveform in this case. Okay, so if let's suppose the carrier frequency is 15 times higher than your reference frequency, then MF is equal to 15. So 15th harmonic will appear along with the side bands, and the side band will be the 13th harmonic and the 17th harmonic, because only odd harmonic can be present in the spectrum. Similarly, the next set of harmonic will appear across the multiple of your carrier frequency. So the multiple of this one, MF. First cluster is around MF, the second cluster will be around 2MF. 2MF is 30, and even harmonics cannot appear. The odd side band harmonics will appear. So second cluster of the harmonics will appear over here around 2MF, and similarly then will around 3MF and so on. So that will be the spectrum of your this sine PWM inverter circuit. Okay, this is said to be the bipolar switching because your output voltage is going to change between plus VD and minus VD. There is no zero voltage level over here. So we call it bipolar switching. In bipolar switching, we have two voltage levels, either plus VD or minus VD. And how we switch our switches in the H bridge or the full bridge, we operate the switches in the cross. G1 and G2 are turned on first of all, then G3 and G4 are turned on once your G1 and G2 are in the off state. So we operate the switches in cross, right? So in bipolar switching technique, that's very simple. We generate one set of pulse. This is the gate signal for the switch G1 and G2, and then the second gate signal, which is the inverted version of the first signal, that is this one, gate signal 2. In with this gate signal we turn on G3 and G4, right? And we get sinusoidally varying output voltage across the load. Okay, next we discuss another way for the bipolar switching. It is exactly same that we have already discussed. Sinusoidal waveform is used as a reference, and the pulses are generated by comparing the carrier waveform with the reference. So that you can observe over here. If I mark these dotted lines, you can see when our reference is higher than the carrier, you get high pulse level, logic high. So you are generating the pulses by the comparison of the reference and the carrier, exactly same which we have done in the previous slide. Okay, this gate, this set of pulses is applied to, let's suppose, This is our switch S1 and this is our switch S2. We are going to turn on these two switches. Okay, when we will turn on switch S1, this point A will be connected with the positive terminal of the source, and let's suppose that source voltage is Vs. Okay, what we are going to do over here, we are going to consider a fictitious point, that is the center point of our source. If the source voltage is plus Vs, so this voltage will be Vs by 2 and this voltage will be Vs by 2. Let's suppose the center point of our source. So what will be the voltage between point A and this fictitious point O, that is the center point of the source? Definitely it will be half of your supply voltage. So VA0 will be equal to plus Vs by 2 when your switch S1 will be turned on. So S1 is on, you get this voltage, and when your switch 2 is turned on, so this point B is connected with the negative terminal. So what will be the voltage of point B with respect to the fictitious point O, that is the center point of your source? So VBO will be equal to minus Vs by 2. So when S2 is in the on state. Now if we look at the second switch of the first arm, this is arm 1 and this one is arm 2. So second switch in the arm, let's suppose this is S3 and this switch is S4. So when your switch S4 is turned on, the voltage at point A will be equal to minus Vs by 2, because when you will turn on switch S4, your switch S1 must be turned off, because both of the switches in an arm cannot be turned on together. So if I turn on switch S4, so VA0 will be equal to minus Vs by 2 when switch 4 is in the on state. And when we are going to turn on switch S3 while turning off S2, so the voltage at point B will be positive, so VBO will be equal to plus Vs by 2, so when S3 is in the on state. Okay, so these voltages are said to be the pole voltages. Pole voltages are basically the voltage between the center point of an arm and the fictitious point O, that is the center point of your source. We are connecting a single supply, but we are taking this point O fictitiously, that is the center, that is the center point of your source. Okay, so when we are going to turn on switch S1 and S2, so we are going to apply these set of pulses, because we will be operating these switches together. Okay, our load is connected somewhere over here. So what will be your load voltage? Load voltage will be VAB. So how to get VAB? The VAB can be obtained as VA0, the voltage at point A at this point with respect to the fictitious point O, minus the voltage at point B with respect to center point of the sources. So load voltage will be given by this equation. Okay, so first of all we are going to sketch the pole voltage. So pole voltage is sketched over here. This is VA0, pole voltage of the first arm. So what will be the voltage level in this case? When we are switching switch S1 and S2 on, our voltage will be equal to plus Vs by 2, pole voltage, not Vs by 2, because we are measuring with respect to center point of this arm. And when we are going to turn off S1 and S2, definitely the other pair S3 and S4 will be turned on. So when S3 and S4 will be turned on, so what will be the voltage at point A? Because switch S4 is turned on, so that will be equal to minus Vs by 2 with respect to point O, right? So pole voltage will be varying between plus Vs by 2 and minus Vs by 2. Okay, so this is the pole voltage VA0. Now we sketch the pole voltage VB0, voltage at this point with respect to this center point, reference point. This is our reference. Okay, so VB0, how to get that one? First of all, you will have to look at the gate pulses for this one. This set of gate pulse was applied to switch S1 and switch S2. Both are same. The pulses for the switch S3 and S4 will be complementary, the inverted version of these two. Whatever the inverted version of this one, so that will be over here. It will be like this, right? So inverted version of these gate pulses S1 and S2 are applied to the switch S3 and S4. So when switch S3 is turned on, so point B will be connected with the positive terminal, and when we sketch the pole voltage for this one VB0, so that you can see over here, when switch S3 and S4 they are turned on in this region. I'm going to write it over here, S3 and S4 they are turned on, so you are going to get plus Vs by 2, and when they are turned off, it means switch S1 and S2 are on. Over here S1 and S2 are on, so you will be getting minus Vs by 2. So this is the pole voltage VB0, right? This waveform is the pole voltage waveform at the center point of your arm B with respect to the center point of your source. Now, how to get load voltage? To get load voltage, you will have to subtract the pole voltage VB0 from the pole voltage VA0. So if you apply the subtraction, so that you can see over here, we have plus Vs by 2, and over here we have minus Vs by 2. So plus Vs by 2 minus Vs by 2 will be equal to plus Vs. So you will get plus Vs at the output. In the second part over here, it is minus Vs by 2 plus Vs by 2. So minus Vs by 2 minus Vs by 2 will be equal to minus Vs, and so on. Over here you will get plus Vs, over here you will get minus Vs. So your load voltage will be same exactly we have discussed before. It is varying in terms of area sinusoidally, but now we have explained the output voltage in terms of by using the concept of the pole voltages. What is pole voltage? Pole voltage is the voltage at the center point of the arm with respect to the fictitious center point of your source. It is not present in the full bridge inverter, but you can use that as a fictitious point to determine the load voltage waveform. Okay, so this is bipolar switching because you are switching between plus Vs and minus Vs. There is no zero level point in this. Now let us discuss single phase full bridge inverter with PWM operation but the unipolar switching. So how to generate the gate pulses for unipolar switching? We use two reference voltage waveforms. One reference is this one, and the second reference is 180 degree out of phase with respect to the first reference waveform. Output frequency will be the reference frequency or the modulating waveform frequency, and the magnitude of the output is again controlled by controlling the modulation index. And when we call the modulation index, that means we are changing the magnitude of these sine waves. So by changing the magnitude of the sine waves, we can change the width of the pulses and we can control the output voltage. Okay, now how unipolar switching take place? First of all, let's discuss with respect to this diagram. In the unipolar switching, let's suppose that if I turn on this G1, so this point A will be connected with the positive terminal of the source. And at the same time, if I turn on the switch 3, so this point B will also be connected with the positive terminal. So both of these switches are turned on and the voltage at point A is VDC, the voltage at point B is VDC. So what will be your load voltage? Your load voltage will be 0, right? So if we turn on switch, let me represent it with T1, transistor 1 and transistor 3, so our load voltage, that is VAB, will be equal to 0 because there is no voltage difference. Whatever is the voltage over here, same is the voltage at point B. Okay, now if I say that with the switch S1, our switch S2 or T2 is in the on state. So if I turn on this switch and this switch is in the cross. Okay, so what will be the load voltage? The load voltage will be equal to plus minus VD, because now this point is connected with the negative terminal of the source and point A is connected with the positive terminal of the source. So when T1 and T2 are in the on state, our load voltage VAB will be equal to plus VD. So with switch 1 we can turn on T3. If we turn on T3, zero load voltage, and if we turn T2 on, the load voltage will be equal to plus VD. Okay, now let's discuss the two other possible combination of the switches. And what are those? If I turn on G4, along with that if I turn on G2, so whatever will be the voltage at point A, same voltage will be there at point B. So if T4 is turned on along with T2, our VAB will be equal to 0, because on both sides of the load you will be having the same voltage. But if you turn on switch 3 along with switch 4, so point B will be connected with the positive terminal and the point A will be connected with the negative terminal of the source. So your load voltage will be equal to plus minus VD, and this polarity is opposite with respect to the previous one. So if we turn on T3 and T4, our load voltage VAB will be equal to minus VD. So these four switching combinations are used. In this, we are not operating the switches in cross. We are operating in the cross, but not for all the time. We can turn on both high side switches, we can turn on both low side switches, but not the two switches in an arm. If you turn on both the switches in an arm, you will create the short circuit. So you cannot turn on G1 and G4 together. G1 and G4 are operating in the complementary mode. Okay, now let's come towards the waveform. In this you can see our reference 1 is higher than the carrier, so you get this pulse. Similarly over here reference 1 is higher, so you have the varying width of the pulses, and the width of the pulses is changing according to the magnitude of the sine wave, that is our reference 1, VR1. And the second set of pulse is not the inverted version of this one, as the case of bipolar switching. In that we generate the just inverted version, but over here it is a completely different pulse which is generated by comparison of the second reference with the carrier. So that you can observe over here. Only for this part this pulse is going to exist, the second pulse. Similarly the second pulse over here, it is different, and it is generated by the comparison of the second reference with the carrier waveform, and its magnitude is definitely changing as an inverted version of the upper waveform, but its times stems for rising edge and falling edge are not same. Okay, so now how the output voltage is generated, because when we apply this set of pulse to the switch G1, when it will be turned on, the same voltage will be available at point A. Okay, so let me first remove these writings so that we can discuss about the output voltage waveform. Okay, so now when we apply these pulses to the switch G1, so the voltage at point A will be the amplified version over here. Same wave shape, but multiplied by the supply voltage, means having the magnitude VD at point A. And when we will apply this one to the switch 3, we will be having the same gate pulse amplified shape at point B. Okay, when what will be the load voltage? The difference of these two, the voltage at point A minus the voltage at point B. So the voltage at point B is this one, right? And from that if you subtract this one, so you will get 0 volt over here. but for the width of the VG1 is slightly more, so it is of this width. So in this part VG1 will be there, it means plus VD will be there at point A, but at point B there will be the zero voltage, so output voltage will be plus VD. Then both of them will be 0, so your output voltage is 0. Then you can see you are getting voltage because of the turn on of the switch S1, but switch S3 is off. When switch 3 is off, definitely switch 2 will be on, because this arm is operating in the complementary mode, this arm is also operating in the complementary mode. When G3 is off, G2 is on. When G2 is on, it means this point is connected with the negative source. So what will be the voltage across the load is this waveform W1, from that this W2 is being subtracted. So this is at 0 voltage level, the upper one is at plus VD, so our load voltage will be plus VD. Now in the second part you can see this is plus VD and this is also plus VD, so our load voltage will be 0, VD minus VD. Then in the next part over here you can see this is plus VD but this is 0, so VD minus 0 you will get plus VD. Then it is 0, this one is 0, your load voltage will be 0. Then you have the voltage over here but no voltage over here, so you will get VD. Then both of the voltages are equal, load voltage will be 0, and so on. So if you look at the load voltage, the pulses are doubled with respect to either VG1 or VG3. Double pulses are appearing and the voltage is varying between plus VD and the 0 level, right? And the area of the pulses covered over the axis is varying sinusoidally because the width of the pulses is varying sinusoidally. So our output voltage waveform, the fundamental component will be like that, and the frequency of that one will be the frequency of your modulating or the reference waveform. So our area is changing sinusoidally, so we will have sinusoidal impact at the output. So we call it sine PWM inverter. But the unipolar switching, in unipolar switching, if you compare it with the previous video that was for bipolar, in the bipolar you switch between plus Vs and minus Vs, but over here you are switching between plus Vs and the 0, or between 0 and minus Vs. So that is the difference in the case of bipolar and the unipolar switching. In unipolar you vary between plus Vs and 0. Now the question is which PWM technique switching method is better, unipolar or the bipolar? The unipolar is better. Why? Because if you look at the spectrum in the unipolar output, because the spectrum depends upon the number of pulses in a cycle, so number of pulses in the cycle are double as compared to your bipolar, so the first cluster will appear around 2 mf instead of mf. So let's suppose that this is mf is equal to 15. So if mf is 15, so you will get the cluster around 2 mf means 30. 30 is an even number that will not appear, but its side bands 31st harmonic and the 29th harmonic that will appear, then 33rd harmonic and the 27th harmonic that will appear, right? So you will be getting a cluster around 2 mf instead of mf. Then there will be no clustering around 3 mf. Then the next set of cluster will be around 4 mf. So the harmonics will be reduced because those are shifted to the higher order, right? So V, A, B, nth harmonic is over here along this axis, and over here is the harmonic order. So harmonics are shifted to the higher order, so net we say that THD will be reduced. So that is the advantage of the unipolar switching technique. And the second advantage is that if you look at this part, you are switching between 0 and plus Vs, right? 0 and plus Vs. So the voltage stress across the switch will be equal to plus Vs. So voltage stress will be equal to plus Vs. Either you consider the positive cycle or you consider the negative cycle. In this case, you are switching from 0 to minus Vs. So in terms of absolute value, the stress is equal to plus Vs. But if we talk about the bipolar switching, in the bipolar switching, we switch between minus Vs and plus Vs. So total voltage stress will be equal to 2 Vs in the case of bipolar. But in the case of unipolar, the voltage stress is equal to plus Vs. So voltage stress across the switch is reduced in the case of unipolar. So that's why unipolar is superior as compared to the bipolar switching mechanism. Okay. So there are a number of advantages. The spectrum gets shifted to the higher order and the stress across these switches is reduced, and it is easier to implement this unipolar using the microcontroller. So this unipolar PWM technique is extensively used while implementing the sinusoidal pulse width modulation based inverter. Okay, so now let's see that how we can generate this unipolar PWM using another way that is shown over here. Instead of using the two references, we are going to use now two carriers which are 180-degree out of phase. We have one reference waveform and two carriers. This is carrier, let's suppose 1, this triangular waveform. Let me highlight this one. This is the first carrier and the dotted one is the second carrier. So we have two carriers, and from these two carriers we are going to generate two set of pulses. So this is the first set of pulse that is generated by comparing the reference with the carrier 1, and let's suppose it is applied to our switch Q1. And the second pulse which is generated by the comparison of the second carrier with the reference that you can observe over here. So you will be getting this set of pulse, okay, right, because in this case these will be the points that you can see from here to here, carrier 2. So your reference is higher than the carrier over here is this one, so you are getting this pulse, so that is applied to your switch Q4. Okay, so now what will be the pole voltage when we are turning on Q1 and Q2? They are operating in the complementary mode, so this will be the voltage waveform which is appearing at pole, first pole, that is point A with respect to the center point of your source, that is the fictitious point. Okay, so our pole voltage will be equal to Vs by 2. Let's suppose this is Vs by 2 over here and this is Vs by 2, and the total supply voltage is Vs. So O is the center point, fictitious center point of the source. So our pole voltage will be equal to plus Vs by 2 and minus Vs by 2. So whenever we are going to turn on switch Q1, plus Vs by 2, and when the switch Q2 is turned on, minus Vs by 2, and they are operating in the complementary mode. Similarly, if you look at the pole voltage VB0, the voltage of this point B with respect to this reference point, so this is VB0, the voltage between these 2 points. So that will be like that. When the switch 3 is on, it is plus Vs by 2, and when switch 4 is on, it is minus Vs by 2. So it will be changing between these two levels, plus Vs by 2 and minus Vs by 2. And how to get load voltage? Load is connected over here between point A and B. So VAB will be equal to pole voltage VA0 minus pole voltage VB0. So if you subtract this waveform, let me call it waveform 2, from the waveform 1, that is the pole voltage of first arm. So if you perform that subtraction, so you will get the output voltage. So let's look at that one. In this part you can see this is going to exist, but over here it is 0, and in the second part both of them are equal to Vs by 2, so you will get 0. Then in this interval of time you have plus Vs by 2 minus Vs by 2, so this will be equal to plus Vs. So it will be changing between plus Vs and this level is 0 and this level is minus Vs. So your output voltage waveform will be like that. That is the difference of these two waveforms. So you are going to get unipolar output voltage waveform, and the stress across the switches is equal to Vs, and the number of pulses are also doubled. So spectrum will be giving you the cluster of harmonics around 2 mf, then 4 mf, and so on. So you can implement unipolar PWM, sinusoidal PWM, either by using two carrier waveforms which are 180 degree out of phase, or by using two reference waveforms which are 180 degree out of phase. Okay, so with this we conclude our lecture. What we have discussed in the previous videos, we have discussed the sine PWM inverter in general, and then with bipolar switching technique, and then with unipolar switching technique. So how to determine the output RMS voltage? For that you can refer to the unipolar uniform PWM video. In that I discussed that we can find out the RMS value with the help of one set of pair. Let me call it pair 1, because the positive part, this is the negative part, and then this is the positive part, and its equivalent negative part is over here. So second pair. Then if I look at the third pair, positive part and the negative part, so these pulses are going to exist in the form of pairs. So for one pair we calculate the RMS value. For each pair we calculate the RMS value, and then we sum it together to get the net RMS voltage of the at the output. So net RMS output voltage will be equal to Vs into square root summation over all the pulses. M is representing the pulse, so M is equal to 1 to P number of pulse pairs, right? This is small p. Small p is basically equal to the number of pulses in half cycle, number of pulses in half cycle, or this is equal to number of pairs. So we will be taking the area defined by each pulse. So let's suppose that the width of each pulse is del m, so del m by pi, right? So this will give us the net RMS output voltage. So that is given by this one. And how to represent the PWM signal in terms of Fourier series? For that you can refer back to the video in which we discussed the uniform PWM. The expression for the Fourier series will remain same, but the starting angle, the ending angle, and the pulse width will be different. So that will be updated in every pulse set, but the expression will remain same. So that expression will give you a new value of the Bn for every pulse. So by adding them together you will get the net Bn, that is the Fourier series coefficient for this particular waveform. A naught and An will be 0 because there is no DC component. Positive area and negative area are equal, and An will be 0 because there exists the quarter wave symmetry as well as the half wave symmetry in this waveform. Okay, so we have discussed the sine PWM inverter in detail, and that's all from this video. Thank you very much.